Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another edition of The Story Behind the Story. Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, Alex. We have quite a show here for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. As always, hats off to the host with the most, my co-host, Alex Studer, joining us from the wonderful Bay Area of San Francisco, Northern California. Welcome, Alex.
Indeed, a very rainy Bay Area it is. It's very cold and lots of downpour happening, but good evening, everyone.
Well, you're sending it our way. I'll tell you, we got a major winter storm warning hitting the Wasatch Front today, Alex, and so it's been blowing and gusty and just absolutely December type of weather. We're having this. We had such a beautiful weather in December and January. I mean, it was like springtime, and now we're getting our winter. And so there you go, folks. So we've done shows on the weather modification. I'm telling you, folks, we could spend 20 shows, 2-hour shows, not even get a little bit of the surface scratched on this topic. So we'll just let it go with that. Alex, We've had quite our own issues on this radio show concerning censorship, concerning, shall we say, the powers that be that seem to have an agenda to keep truth off the air. We have this radio network, Revolution Radio, that has had its own challenges and problems over the years. We've been a witness to that as well, yet we persist and keep going. I just, again, just like to set the tone for the interview tonight. I'll let you bring on the guests you've invited, tell a little bit about their history and story, and we'll start running with that. But, we just keep saying this all the time, folks. When we live in an age of universal deceit, which is really what we are in right now. We have such a massive fraud going on as far as our monetary system is concerned. The so-called fiat money, the fiat currency of the Federal Reserve private banking cartel. All these things going on. The very act of the POTUS, the President of the United States, being in such a position now. I tell you, there's a lot of things happening. Indeed, in Washington District of Criminals, the swamp, the quicksand in the swamp is starting to get really, really thick, and there's an awful stench coming out now. That is if you, of course, believe the mainstream media. But, folks, we're going to keep going, pressing on forward. In an age of universal deceit, which we live in, where most of the people actually believe that NASA is real and that man landed on the moon. Indeed, in an age of universal deceit, people that stand up and have the backbone to tell the truth are labeled as revolutionaries and dangerous nutcase wackos. Folks, that's what's happening. Alex, you've asked some special friends to come onto the show tonight. Let me have you go ahead and introduce them. Tell them.
Well, I first want to give a tip of the hat also to Major James Burdock of the Goldwater. I think he's lurking somewhere in the background. And again, a shout out to Phil and Jim, everyone at the Goldwater. I just recently learned within minutes of our going on show, the Goldwater has also been attacked in a similar way to a story that hopefully we're gonna hear our guests tell us about. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been graciously accepted our offer to be with us tonight. We have Jim and Angie Blake of Victurus Libertas, and they have a very interesting story to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Jim and Angie. And hello, thank you, and welcome to our show.
Hey, thank you for having us on.
How you doing?
So I came across you folks on social media, and I just happened to resonate with many of the stories that were being told on your channel. I've been an avid follower of you folks for well over a year now, and And I've been sort of lurking and not really making too many comments. But when I saw this story and I heard what was going on with you folks, I reached out, and lo and behold, here we are. So, I'm meeting you for the first time. It's a wonderful thing. But please tell us the story of what happened to your YouTube channel. And this was only a couple days ago, from what I understand. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Angie. Start off.
Oh, we've only had our channel for probably a little over 2 years, 2.5 years, I guess.
It's been about 2 years, yeah.
And we call ourselves a truth channel, and we do extensive research before we post anything. We make sure we have backup and credentials for everything that we post. We have a video channel. We had a video channel on YouTube, and we have a website, and then we use a few other platforms as well. But the main one was YouTube, and we grew really quickly. We were very proud of ourselves. We had about 70,000 subscribers in, like I said, about 2 years. And again, we are very careful with what we post. So in 2016, there was a nightclub shooting in Florida, the Pulse nightclub. And as we started to research, we found some nefarious signs of false flag, and we reported on it. Jim actually is the one who did the videos, and I was doing some stories on the website. And those titles and descriptions happen to have had the word Florida and shooting in them.
Yeah, Florida shooting and crisis actors.
Crisis actors, yeah.
Yeah, I had done research and made 3 videos back to back to back during that whole thing 2 years ago with the shooting. And I noticed that I did some research on $02Mar18, I believe his name is. He was the shooter. And I did some research and found out that he was associated with a government contractor, G4S, I believe, and that he was also, he was an actor. He acted in a couple of films. Also noticed that 3 of the people that they interviewed in the shooting were also actors or had acting experience. And I just raised that flag. That's all. I did 3 videos on that. I did videos on Craigslist. We're advertising for crisis actors during that whole time as well. So I did back-to-back-to-back videos, I think, within 2 days. This was 2 years ago. Just that's basically what it was. It was all factual based. There was no threatening. There was no coercion or bullying or anything like that. And we got flagged within 24 hours for all 3 of those videos. The first one, it got flagged for bullying and harassment. I asked why. They didn't tell me. The second one, bullying and harassment. I asked why. They didn't tell me. The third one, boom, 3 strikes and you're out, gone.
Yeah. My own feeling is they have their algorithms set to pick up on any channels that are reporting on the Florida shooting from last week, the school shooting. And I feel like those algorithms picked up the old videos and they, are really anxious to delete any channels that are discussing that kind of stuff. I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to hide, but it seems to me like they're trying to hide something. Well,
and then, however, we are aware that YouTube, Google has hired 10,000 people to comb through these type of videos, to look at them and to flag them. And I think that's probably what happened too. I think there was AI involved here, but I also think that there was a lot of human interaction going on. So yeah, I absolutely believe that that truth channels are being targeted right now. And
well, Jim, I just gotta jump in here. This is Dr. Ott. So let me get this straight. I watched the videos that you posted, and I saw them on this alternative site that Alex sent to me. These were already up since 2016. You said?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So wow, so they've been sitting there. As I watched them, I said, "Well, this is old stuff. Why? What's the problem?" And so what I surmised is you're right, an algorithm that just went out and flagged it because they're now not wanting to connect Florida shooting in the schools with anything tied to crisis actors. Okay. That's my take on it. I saw that happening. That's the only thing that made sense to me, seeing what this was old news, really. Good stuff, but
true. This is Burdock from the Philippines here. I just wanted to let you all know that what we just got shut down for yesterday was a broadcast, our show over here, and it was titled "The Goldwater Rocks a Special False Flag Broadcast." Now, we're kind of just making, we're doing a false flag broadcast, trying to make a little bit light of the situation, and the content of the show had nothing to do with bullying or harassment or anything like that. I mean, in fact, we spent most of the show, if you watch our shows, we skip around a lot and cover our recent news. So I can attest to you that I think probably one of the reasons this one got flagged is because false flag was in the title of it. But yeah, that's unfortunately one reason that is the reason we're not able to do simulcast the show presently. I'll go ahead and get the audio, and we'll post it on our site and on 8chan later. But I just want to give you an update on that.
Well, see, this is amazing because I've commented. We commented on this last week, Alex. As you remember, we were told by our guest that artificial intelligence, AI, is already been deployed. It's not coming. It's already reality.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so they don't really need logarithms per se. They just need this the computer to tell you which ones are dangerous. Not because that you did anything wrong 2 years ago, but because people that are searching for what you had to say could come across and say, well, maybe these people are tied in to the research that needs to be done. And so that's where I see it's happening. And look at what's happening in the news right now too. We see Trump, for whatever reason, is kind of under duress. All the reports are saying that the White House is in disarray. It has all these problems going on. Is Mueller going to indict him? Perhaps not. The bottom line is, well, there is a trade war brewing. Wall Street is reeling from it, and it's going to just get worse next week, I submit. So, wow. Things are happening, and it's not accidental. There's definitely connections if you want to look at the big picture. Alex, what do you think?
AI, as we understand it, basically went online way back in 2003, and we're just learning about it now. My understanding is it became self-aware pretty darn quick, and has pretty much been directing what we perceive in mainstream news as quote-unquote the narrative for several years now. And it's directing social discourse by way of programming this narrative, and I believe it's what is sort of spitting out the assignments to carry out these false flags. I'm an avid supporter of those conclusions. I myself have been researching these false flags way since 9/11 and
right.
Beyond the the liberty and so forth. So I see this as a patternistic expression of something that is being used to program us, wag the dog style. And it's not hard if anyone does their own homework to conclude that, the crisis actor thing is real. We see the same people showing up from one event to another. I mean, this one girl in particular, she's like the poster girl for showing up in all these different events. And there's she's crying into her cell phone, and then they have her pasted up into like the basket of, the kid riding through the moon on E.T. and, all sorts of, comedic expressions of this crisis actor thing. And then of course we have the David Hogg, investigation, which is really, like I've been saying, and I said it last week, it's for the first time gained enough seriousness of attention. It's got teeth and people are biting into it, and it's no longer being readily dismissed as it has been in the past, and people are starting to wake up and become aware that oh yeah that was fact. So if this was, then how about Vegas or Charleston, North Carolina, or or VT or Columbine and Sandy Hoax, of course. And folks, I just want to chime in that I also have had YouTube censorship applied to me. I was issued a strike recently for an unspecified violation of terms of service simply for the fact that I had posted on my channel a copy of the fair use documentary, We Need to Talk About Sandy Hook. Uh-huh. And I appealed that decision. I was denied, and no reasons given, there it is. So I'm only waiting now to have my own channel killed as well. So I'm migrating all my content. I guess BitChute is the preferred destination, and I'm just sorry that we're all going through this. But I also want to draw attention to only last night did Tucker Carlson highlight an article that was written in the Daily Caller, which apparently outs Google having secretly hired the Southern Poverty Law Center to be doing this censorship, and so that if that doesn't raise some eyebrows, folks, I don't know what does.
Well, we see YouTube also getting into the mix with airing movies and sports channels, and see, when you do that, when I saw that happening, and if you have any smart TV, you can just go and see. You can subscribe now to YouTube and get cable or satellite live feeds coming in of all your favorite shows. When I commented to a couple of friends that I know, I says, you mark my words, YouTube is going to start censoring all of their content, because they have to, because look who controls those media giants. To come in and play ball with them, you're going to have to toe the line. I think this is happening. But the big question I have for you, Jim and Angie, is there's probably 50, 60 other YouTube content types that are doing much the same thing, even more so than you, as far as identifying crisis actors. I did a small check as I just did a search engine on YouTube, and there's 50, 60 channels that are showing crisis actor videos. Why aren't they cut off?
I don't know. It's a funny thing, though, because we posted a video, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. We posted a video a couple of days ago, and then this happened 24 hours after that. Boom, boom, boom. About we were talking to our correspondent in Israel. Her name is Marianne Azizi, and she had called us up urgently. It's about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning over there. She wanted us to post something on our channel, and it was about a 13-year-old American girl that was being held at a institution over there. What's that? Schuster?
The Lynn Schusterman Institution.
The Lynn Schusterman.
She, by the way, is a Rothschild. She's in the Rothschild family.
Bingo.
Yep,
bingo.
Yep, that's it.
All right. So within 24 hours, we got flagged. Boom, boom, boom. Because you can't say anything about Israel here. But this child had been sexually molested. She had been beaten. She's been held over there in Israel for like 3 years in these institutions. She has run away. She has escaped and run away from that institution over 100 times. Right. So she's so. I mean, why can't we help her? Well, because we've spoken. We are one of the few channels that'll speak out against the corruption that's going on in Israel. It's just as bad as it is here, or worse. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're dealing with their own police state over there. As a matter of fact, we send we send our cops over there for training. So our cops are very militarized here, and I see an Orwellian 1984 thing happening in our country right now, and quite frankly, it's scaring the hell out of me.
Alex, what's the status of our little gal friend over in Israel now? Have you got any more updates on her?
Oh yes, free ahead to me. So far, I haven't really seen any new developments there. She's still being incarcerated for slapping an officer who, brutally shot her brother in the head. And there's a huge movement to try and get her out. Yep. She's certainly getting a lot of press. Not in the channels that she deserves to be, but again, who owns those channels?
Right.
That's right.
But yeah, she's not alone. There's dozens like her that are in similar situations we don't hear about. She's but she's becoming a very good poster girl for this very serious issue that I don't know how it's going to get resolved. Certainly the state of Israel doesn't seem to want to be doing anything about it.
No.
So has she actually been tried, or is she just being held? I hadn't heard.
There have been several hearings, and so far nothing has been actually tried. But she tried to get an appeal, and tried to get released on, I guess, some form of recognizance or whatever, and they just denied. And so they just keep incarcerating her. And from what I can see, they're just trying to drag their feet in a legal sense, so that she may never get tried. I don't.
Yeah. They're nefarious for that. I thought when I asked Marianne about her, she said she thought she was going to be out on house arrest for a while. Or do you know if that happened? No, we don't know.
I don't know.
I have not heard. I do not know. I would hope, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Marianne was hopeful that she was supposed to get out on house arrest, so I can follow up on that, because I have been following that little girl. She is so brave, and really, man, that's a tough situation.
Well, I'm going to break some news here tonight. I sent out. I've been corresponding with some archaeologists, Christian archaeologists there in Palestine. I actually went back 3 years ago, as you know, Alex, to Israel. Went on some archaeological digs there. Holy mackerel! This is a story that I've sent this out to a number of people on emails that are active in the archaeological movement there in Israel. And talk about censorship. These people have not received my emails. They've been cut off. They've been shut down. And here's the story. Back 3 years ago, when we went, and I had a specific agenda when we went from the Dead Sea up to spend the next 5 or 6 days in Jerusalem. I went out and I wanted to specifically walk down from the Temple Mount into follow the path, the trail, if you will, down into the city of David, because I wanted to find out exactly the layout and find out where the biblical Gihon Springs were. Gihon Springs, Gihon, Gihon Springs. Because in my Bible research, I said that's got to be where the Temple of Solomon was built. It has to be, because it all fits. That's where Solomon was anointed king. That's where David was anointed king. And we read that Solomon built his temple at the same place. And all of the sacrifices that were offered, there had to be flowing water to clean the blood, etc., etc., etc. So the tour guide that was running interference for us was from Armenia. Was the original Armenian Christians, right? His ancestry goes clear back to the first Christian church in the Middle East, the Armenian church there, okay? When I said I wanted to do this, he looked at me like, who have you been talking to? I said, what do you mean? And he has this, the heavy accent. He says, we, the Christian church, know that's where it is, but nobody else knows. I said, well, all you have to do is read your scriptures, read and understand where, the physical clues are given. He says, yes, but that's amazing. So what happened was we went down into what's called Hezekiah's tunnel. Now that was built by King Hezekiah. Going down, you can actually get a pass if you're physically fit enough, and it's like a 2-mile hike through the narrow tunnel where the Gihon Springs water runs through. It's pretty amazing. So we did that, walked and hiked the tunnel, and come out at the bottom. But as we came back around to the starting point, there was all these barbed wire, razor wire fences on the side, and you could hear jackhammers and construction going on. And I'm sitting there. Well, let's go see what this is all about. We have archaeological passes. We have ability to go in there, right? Oh. Yeah, well, try. Good luck. It's like Blackwater in there. I mean, it's like there's a private international security team that guards that section of the Gihon Springs. Now, my archaeological friend has a pass from Tel Aviv, the Israeli Archaeological Association, right? And he can go about anywhere that's registered as a historical site. And he went up to the guard, spoke to him in Israeli, and he flashed his credentials. And the guy spoke to his walkie-talkie, and suddenly 5 guys with submachine guns came right down, and they says, "You leave and shut up and don't come back."
Wow.
Okay. Now. Wow, he says, "Well, he says, you know who I am? You know who I am?" He goes, "I know. It doesn't matter. Go." And suddenly we were just, we were being flagged. Here's my point. I said to my Armenian friend, I said, "What are they doing?" And he was upset because they were excavating something. They were doing what sounded like digging. There was work going on there that was not being publicized because it was not in any of the the notifications. I mean, and anything you do anything around the city of David like that, man, I tell you, you have to have. It's almost like a 5-year process of going through panel after panel after panel to review that you're not going to be messing up any archaeological site. You can't dig anywhere in the city of David without going down and seeing all kinds of archaeological relics, okay? So I'm sitting there with my friend, the archaeologist, and said, look, here's my map. Here's what I think is happening. Now, tell me if I'm wrong or crazy. This is 3 years ago now. I said, what if the ancient Solomon's temple and the rebuilt Herod's temple is not where they're saying it is at all on the Temple Mount? What if that's just a smokescreen? Because I don't think that the Wailing Wall, the East Wall, where the Jews come and do all the prayers, I said that's got to be part of the Antonia fortress of Rome. The temple itself was completely taken apart. There was not a stone left, and yet Christians believe this wall is part of the ancient temple. I says, no, I don't buy it. So you know what we did the next day? We went up to the Temple Mount, started asking some of the rabbis if they could be mistaken, and we just about caused a riot.
Bet.
Holy mackerel! You're not Jewish. You get away. You're not a. And they called security and let us leave the area.
They called security.
Yeah, I'm sitting here.
Rebel.
Yeah. Just because I'm asking a question. But I submit what's happening is that the powers that be, and this is, again, at the tail end of the Obama administration, we see their man, Donald Trump, addressing AIPAC before the election, and he says all the right things. He says, "I will move the U.S. Embassy to the eternal capital of Israel, which is Jerusalem." And man, did he get standing ovations for that soundbite. I clicked my tongue and I said, good luck with that one, bucko. You're going to have to fight the UN and everybody else to get that to happen. Not to mention, where are you going to build the thing, okay? It's going to be a 15-year process to build anything there new, okay? You just just don't go in and do it, guy. I thought either he's really naive or he knows something like the Cheshire cat that just swallowed the canary, right? Well, what I'm submitting is this, that the third temple is not only built, but they're doing worship in it now, covertly. We're talking about the high-level Freemasons, the high-level Knights of Malta. Those elitists are really doing, because really what it's all about is a covert satanic ritual that's going on. Now, the thing that makes sense to me, because I asked my this was last year, there is now, they're putting in the final level of construction, and it looks to be an official type of office building. So I'm saying that's where the U.S. Embassy will be positioned. It makes sense to me, and I believe that underneath in the sixth, I think it's probably a 6th-level story, the 6th bottom is where the temple is going to be working. It's going to be rebuilt. Now, what does the scripture tell us? That in the time of tribulation, the man of sin will sit in the temple as God and basically control the world through a massive world war. Mm-hmm. Do you see that happening, folks? I do.
I think that's fascinating. I've never even thought about it. That means that we are officially have ushered into the end times.
Oh, absolutely. And I've been saying that covertly and quietly, and the fact that my communications on this have been email. I could just imagine what a video would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. No, you can't do that.
No, that's not allowed.
We might not see you tomorrow.
So when I asked you, Jim and Angie, what's the underlying reason for the censorship, I had a gut feeling that's exactly, this was a smokescreen. Okay. They had to make something up. But when you said what you said, you hit a raw nerve, I submit. I think that's exactly what happened.
Well, yeah, they're reinstating a lot of these other channels. And I don't think that we're going to get reinstated, to be honest with you, not unless we get an attorney.
Well, we are actively seeking an attorney and possibly maybe have one that's going to work the case. Well,
because I petitioned to you, Google is more than just a service. It's more like a utility, and we're an LLC, and we've branded Victurus Libertas for about 2 years now. We have a very good reputation as being honest and trustworthy. And they have tarnished our name now. When somebody does a search on us, they'll see that we were banned from YouTube for bullying and harassment and for gross negligence of their bylaws. And so
that's defamation.
To me, that's not cool, and it is defamation. And so we're not going to, we're looking at this as a David and Goliath thing. A lot of people have told me, just go stick with BitChute or those other platforms and don't worry about YouTube. You need to get away from them anyway. And I say, sure, but I don't like bullies, and I'm not backing down. So we're going to go back there, and we're going to go hot and heavy until we can't do it anymore. And that's just the way we play.
Well, it's just a matter of time before BitChute does the same thing. I mean, you got to draw the line somewhere. You really do. Alex, what's your comments?
Well, as I posed this question to Jim right before the show, I'd be very curious to find out what a group here in the Bay Area would think about this discussion, a group called the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF. And their whole mission statement is to preserve freedom of speech on the Internet, freedom of access, deregulation. So, I sense that the more this story gets traction and people begin talking about it, hopefully more will come to the aid of folks like Jim and Angie and the Goldwater and me and others who are constantly being attacked. I just remember since the first day that film came out, we need to talk about Sandy Hook. Active shills were out there falsely filing DMCA copyright claims against anybody who posted the film, even though it was clearly labeled a fair use documentary. These coordinated efforts, I don't see them stopping. I would like to see us talk a little bit more about that Daily Caller article with regard to what Google is doing and who they've hired to do their dirty work.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll just say this, guys. This is so important for all of us to stick together and work with each other, because if this could happen to us, it can happen to anybody. And without substantial evidence of us breaking their bylaws, and if they can do this and get away with it, it's game over, guys. It's just game over.
Well, this is nothing new. I got to tell you, Alex, we've seen this happening. We've been down that rabbit hole for sure. With your blog being shut down, my blog being shut down.
I'm on version 3.0, folks. Jim and Angie, one of these days we'll share with you the story of a couple we refer to as the Bopsy twins.
Nice.
They've been actively shutting us down and throwing wrenches in our efforts for quite some time. And Burdock, if you're out there listening, I'm sure you have a story or two to chime in with from your own perspective.
But see, what I'm getting at is they're an extension of not only the SPLC, but also much higher and deeper than that, folks. It's really who is in charge of Big Brother. It is that. And so, like you guys, and I don't mean to throw water on your parade here, but just for what it's worth, department, I have a corporate attorney. My business is not really big, but it's worldwide. It's called Mother Earth Minerals. You can go to our website, meminerals.com. What I do is just do nutritional supplements, and we have a corporate attorney that basically really is she's top notch. She makes sure everything we put out is not going to run us afoul of anything, right? But see, that doesn't stop the people that are tied in to Big Brother to come out, and if you step outside of the box, if you step outside and color outside of the line just a little bit, they will target you. And believe me, Alex has been targeted. I've been targeted. We have friends in California. Educate yourself. The website was shut down. I mean, this website has millions of subscribers. Okay. So Ken Adachi came on the show and explained what's happening. Here's what happens. Okay, they are not only worried about shutting down your content, but more than anything, they want, just like you said so well, they want to cast aspersions and ruin your credibility. Mm-hmm. And that's their modus operandi. Let me tell you. Well, so what happened? After they shut down my blog, after they shut down Alex's blog, after they shut down Ken Adachi, all Ken Adachi did was post my papers and some of the research that I had done that they found to be hate speech, right? So after Ken Adachi's attorney got his website back on, the problem remained. There was this terrible website that they made attacking myself. They actually claim that I'm a CIA COINTELPRO, that I'm the controller of all these shooters. This is the type of stuff that they put out there. Wow. So they originally had it hosted by GoDaddy. So my corporate attorney filed grievances that were legitimate now about attack and hate speech. And so GoDaddy said, "Well, wow, we'll definitely shut it down." So it was down for exactly 24 hours, and then it reappeared. And GoDaddy their hands were tied, and my corporate attorney says, "Wait a minute. What happened was through the Southern Poverty Law Center, because we're talking about Jewish people that are attacking us now. Okay,
yeah.
We're talking, and the ADL, both of them." Had established shell corporations to run this stuff clear out of offshore in Iceland.
Yep.
Okay, so my attorney says, well, if you really want us to pursue this, we're going to have to hire, international team. And we're talking 100 G's minimum.
Yeah.
Wow. And so they are successful in what they're doing because they have deep pockets.
Mm-hmm.
They have a printing press in their basement.
Right. Exactly. Literally.
No, I get it. And so, you have to, as you're saying this, I'm trying to go through my mind. So what is the best way to counteract this? I mean, not give up is one thing. I can tell you that much right now. We won't give up until,
Well, I'll just submit this to you, okay? You're on their radar, and that means you're doing something right, okay? You don't get flack unless you're over the target ready to dump a payload of bombs, okay? So keep that in mind that to keep on keeping on, because this is a stamp of approval that you're the real deal. That's what it tells me, first of all. Okay. Now, my second bit of advice to you is just, hey, pick your battles. Okay. Right. Be wise as serpents, as the Bible says, and harmless as doves. You gotta be wise like these snakes are, but then you're not really doing what they're doing, are you? You want to just basically. I love what you said the first of the show. You're just a truth channel. Mm-hmm. You want to tell the truth. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and
true. I had a suggestion. Well, in fact, actually, I'd like your opinion on this. What about getting a whole group? I mean, the tens of thousands of us, picking the most ridiculous, obviously overt cases of just people shutting down because they just don't like what you're saying. No bullying, no harassment. Obviously, we're in that group, but I mean. And file class action.
Yeah, I think I'd like to do that, to be honest with you.
That's been tossed around quite a bit to us, yeah.
I think this has to get in the news, and so it is getting into some mainstream media news cycles, which worries me as well. I think, some of this is a psyop. Anytime I hear anything that's positive coming out of that I think should be positive coming out of the mainstream media, it's a red flag to me, because I don't think that the mainstream media has any redeeming values whatsoever, and I just think that they're there for disinfo themselves.
Well, they're completely bought and controlled. I mean, they are controlled by who doesn't like us.
I would have to say you're in very good company with everyone here on the show tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and so I even question what's going on with the current administration right now. I just don't know. Everything's up in the air. I'll be honest with you. We were way more anti-Clinton than we were pro-Trump.
All right.
So we're still up in the air as far as what's going on with the deep state and Trump, and I'm watching. I'm silent. I'm just watching. Now I can tell you a lot of our base on our channel were Trump fans. They were Trump
very
supporters.
Hardcore. But then it gets to the point where no matter what he does, and even if he goes exactly against what he says and doesn't follow through on his promises, they're making excuses for him. And then I go, you guys are just as bad as the Clinton followers. You got to call it like it is. And if he's not doing what he says he's going to do, say it like that.
Right. You can't have blind followers. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say that it's new boss, same as the old boss, but in a slightly different flavor. He's definitely more charismatic and yada da da. But let's not overlook the fact that clearly he has made a bold statement very proudly that he is the best friend to Israel we have ever had, and he and BB666 Satan Yahoo are best buddies.
Well, here's the other thing you had to look at. This is just news with the Mueller probe closing in. They just finished up the interrogation of Kushner, Jared, the son-in-law, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so what do we see? His security clearance is downgraded. What's all that about? I think maybe he gave him too much of the pie. I don't know, but there's definitely some backlash happening there with Brother Kushner, or should we say Rabbi Kushner. It's it's a sordid web for sure, no doubt about it. And we've been talking about this from the date of the election results. Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying in October. You know what I'm saying, Alex. You know what I'm saying, Major. This, here we have Trump. The rigged. It's all rigged. It's all fixed.
Yep.
He's making these sound bites that are being replayed mockingly and derisively on Jimmy Fallon and late night talk shows, right? Mm-hmm. But he's making them in places like Pennsylvania, at a rally in Pennsylvania. He's making these in a rally in Wisconsin. These are the two key swing states, okay? Now, if you're going to fix an election and make it look plausible, you're not going to go put the fix in New York. You're not going to put the fix in California. They know this everybody would say, wait a minute. But, and what Mueller is having to dance around, the minefield is when you go into the ultimate meddling, the meddling will have to go into black box vote fixing, okay? And if you do that, Hillary's fair game, everybody's fair game. You know what's going to happen? The whole house of cards illusion is going to fall to pieces. Because you see, presidents aren't elected. They are freaking appointed.
Of course. Absolutely.
Right. Well, you're exactly right. And you start talking about the Russians, you have to talk about every other country, that are extorting our politicians. I mean, our politicians are extorted. We know that. They're blackmailed. They're put into compromised situations, and then they're blackmailed.
And how many so-called free elections worldwide has our wonderful CIA boys been involved in?
Oh, that's what I was just about to say. Yeah.
See, so come on. Hypocrisy.
Right.
So, guys, I think here's what I think about all of this. I think it's all a smokescreen right now. What I really think is nobody's talking about the elephant in the room, and that's the economy. And I really think that they're going to pull the plug on the economy here in the United States, and it's going to devastate a lot of people. We could see the Dow lose half of its value, and people are just going to be devastated. We're in a big bubble right now. Nobody's talking about it. I've been talking about it since last year. So,
well, Trump was talking about it as candidate Trump, if you remember.
Yeah, but he's not talking about it anymore.
He says, believe me, we have a derivatives bubble, and it's just, he went on and on and on, and he's absolutely right. But this is when he was candidate Trump among a dozen other candidates, okay? When he became the candidate, he never discussed it. You can't. Mm-mm. You can't talk about it, you see. But you're right. You're absolutely right. There, and I have a financial planning background. Alex knows the history. I mean, I've actually written a book called The Coming Rush to Liquidity. I've been trained in Wall Street back in the 80s, okay? I actually sat at the feet and learned from Paul Volcker, the Federal Reserve Chairman back in the day. And what he told us, and I'm talking me and a group of other Jewish bigwigs. This is back when I was Mormon, LDS, right? And won the scholarship back there. He flat out said that there's going to come a day. He said he didn't know when, and he hoped that he would be dead by the time it happened. He said there is going to be a day when, and he pulled out of his money clip at least a $10,000 bill. I mean, a bill that I could see that had so many zeros on it. I didn't know. I've never seen anything like that. And he lit it on fire and used it to light his green Cuban cigar with, right?
Yeah.
And he said his dollar, whatever denomination, these, he said, are, and I quote, I'll never forget this. He said, this is for the consumption of the goy. Now, I didn't know what the heck goy meant then. I was a young 20-plus-year-old young guy who's going to make $1 million or $2 million in the first year and use the system. I didn't know what goy meant, but I do now. Yeah. It's us. It's the useless eaters. It's it's human cattle to them. Okay, and folks, listen up. He said that when they decide to happen, it's going to consume the goy. The goy use it to consume now as for their consumption, but it will turn on them and consume them. I'll never forget that, because he said until you have this, and he had a pocket full of gold coins, Krugerrands and gold eagles from the U.S. Treasury. By the way, the U.S. Treasury has never quit minting pure silver and pure gold coins, just FYI. Okay, he says unless you have these and put them offshore in a safe, secure, neutral Swiss account, you have no eggs in your basket.
True. You're reminding me of the documentary by the late Aaron Russo, America, Freedom to Fascism, and also a book co-authored by Dr. Robert Rowan, MD, called They Own It All, Including You, by Means of Toxic Currency. And I just wanted to say that we're going to break here in about 2 minutes, folks. But thank you, Jim and Angie, for joining us, and hopefully you can stay, and we'll continue the discussion after the break.
Sure. Yeah,
thanks so much.
Fun.
Yeah, you bet. If you haven't seen that the documentary From Freedom to Fascism, I like to think I had a little bit to do with that. I really do. I told you the story before, but I tell you, it's kind of been forgotten a little bit. But Aaron Russo was a genuine man with backbone. I got to tell you, I had the privilege to meet him personally when I lectured in Pasadena at the Freedom Forum. I was there. He interviewed me afterwards with him and his business manager, and it was an hour-long breakfast turned into a 4-hour question and answer, and he left there just absolutely wide awake. Okay, so yeah, it's amazing. I tell you, it's going to happen. I say the truth tellers have to have one big responsibility. And that is to not to panic, because you see, the fiat currency is only available for one thing, because it's what government says it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you understand that, it's trust and confidence, and it's nothing but that. It's the electronic widgets that you do electronically, whether it's Bitcoin or whatever else. See, these things. It's just a means of facilitating trade and services.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's all it is. But if people say, oh, my goodness, I can't get my transfer payment from the welfare department, I got to go out and attack Whitey in your city, then we got a problem, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to have a problem either way. You know that.
Yeah.
People just have too much faith in the dollar, the federal note, and it's worthless. It's absolutely worthless right now.
And the all-seeing eye is what runs the place. Folks, we're going to come back. We'll be back out of these messages. My guests tonight, Jim and Angie, will be back too as well. Alex, Major in the Philippines. Stay awake, folks. We'll be right back out of these messages. Oh, yes. Music. Why don't I play it? Yeah, we do. The doctor is in, folks. Yes, listen up. You got to listen to the doctor. The doctor is putting some chin music out tonight, folks. Thanks for listening, and this is The Story Behind the Story. I'm your host, Dr. H. Rod. I have Alex Studer with me, as always. He's the co-host with the most, folks. Very capable.
Hello.
In every way. You there with us, Alex? Hello? I hope we're still going through okay.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, my mute button was escaping from me. Can you hear me okay?
We have some... go ahead and reintroduce our special guest, but we also...
Yes. we are very pleased to have with us tonight Jim and Angie Blake of Victurus, Libertas, and we've been discussing internet censorship today. They've shared a story of recently having had their YouTube channel taken down without really any valid explanation, and they're not alone. So welcome again, Jim and Angie. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Jim. He's not back yet, but thank you so much for having us.
Now, you two sound like you're very happily married. Is that the case, or?
Well, yes. Yes, we've been married for 10 years, so we know each other well.
Wow, you sound more like newlyweds to me. You sound very young and vivacious, and you got energy in your voice. And that's the one thing about radio. We can't really see who we're talking with, especially me, because I keep my fisheye lens all trained downward.
Right.
So anyway, folks, Angie, thank you so much for telling the story. In the first hour, we talked about perhaps the real reason why you were targeted. I think you hit a raw nerve with your coverage of the story of this young gal there in Israel, her incarceration in this institution, her sexual violation, etc. I mean, there's a reason why they don't want that to be broadcast. I think that's the real reason. But
absolutely, and there was so when the little girl escaped, she ran to her lawyer, who has been her dad's lawyer, and he had her at his house, and that's when he videotaped her, and he did a little interview, and he just asked her some questions, just simple questions, really not leading, but that's how the story actually got out. Well, he's actually incarcerated in Israel right now. They arrested him for doing that video and said that he was trying to make Israel look bad. So he wanted to get it out as much as he could, and especially in the United States, and that's how we got our hands on it.
There you go. So you say this gal is a Rothschild?
The Lynn Schusterman. Lynn Schusterman was like a daughter in the Rothschild family.
She should be given preferential treatment. Something's not smelling right in Denmark down there. Something's amiss for sure.
Yeah. Now, the Lynn Schusterman is the institution that the little girl is in. They won't release the little girl's name because she's, underage.
Oh, but the little girl is not Rothschild.
No, the little girl. It's the institution that she's in, where she's being molested and beaten every day, is owned by Rothschild.
Is this little girl an Israeli citizen, or
no? She is an American child. She went over with her parents, and her dad ended up getting a no exit order put on him.
Are they Jewish Americans? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm not positive about that. I can get more information about this little girl because Marianne will tell me anything, as much as she knows about it, but I just don't know all the details.
Angie, I think you're onto something huge here, so keep pressing this. I submit that's exactly why you've been shut down.
Yeah.
There's a big, quote, story behind the story here, my dear. My spider sense is tingling on this right now.
Yeah, that's what we think too.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, just find out the particulars. Sometimes you just follow the whole breadcrumb trail, so to speak. You find some real interesting morsels. Find out why their parents, whether there's no exit visa. Find out the history and background on why they were there in Israel in the first place. This is what investigative journalism is all about. Okay, something's very very much in scarce supply these days. So that's my challenge to you. You have the contacts, do the digging, and if you contact myself or Alex or the Goldwater with your story, we'll make sure it gets out there.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. And I have enough firewalls now. I don't know if they dare mess with my website.
Nice.
I don't know.
Excellent.
Yeah, that must be nice because our website's been hacked into more than a few times too.
We need firewalls.
Well,
sure.
Perhaps we can enlist the help of Major James Burdock, who is not only the editor of the Goldwater, but also connected to some very, very technically savvy server hosts who specialize in protecting folks like you and True and their own servers from unwarranted attacks. So and also, I'm hoping that perhaps the Goldwater might be interested in an op-ed you folks might want to contribute concerning this very issue and your story, the whole enchilada. So I'll try to keep you guys in contact after the show.
That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You all are welcome. We don't edit. Okay, I've got a really cool job. We pretty much let anyone say what they need to. Our comments section, we don't touch it. And we also happen to be the Goldwater is basically the news arm of 8chan. So that's our backbone network, and Alex will let you know. He can walk you through how to create your own channel on there. And hey, that's free speech, as free as it gets. It's the last bastion.
That sounds amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I was telling Angie I'm kind of excited about all of this. For some reason, I wasn't as upset as you might think somebody would be after losing your channel like that, because I think new opportunities are going to open up, and we're going to be introduced to people that we probably normally wouldn't have met if this wouldn't have happened. So I think it's a blessing in disguise.
It usually is. Let me again, as I said in the last hour, and those listeners that are just joining us now. Oh, and by the way, if Dom or Mr. O, find out how many hookups we have. We can pretty much tell how many people are listening to the broadcast by the amount of hookups through the station. So I like just to know that for my own information. But as I said in the first hour, when I saw those 3 videos, I mean, I watched them and I just said, no way, no way. There is something much, much more sinister working here. There's something else that's not being said, and I submit that's exactly what there's. Anytime, because Alex, you know what I'm talking about. The Israeli Defense Forces, the Mossad. This is the people that really run the whole world network. I mean, they know anything that comes out of their fiber optic network that goes out that they target, they will shut that down immediately if there's a reason to. And believe me, there's a reason here, folks.
Yeah,
there's a reason here.
Yeah, we were told by a few people that I know that's probably what happened. They had Hasbro out there combing what we were doing and what we were saying, especially after that video. And like I said, we've talked about this before. We have an Israeli correspondent that talks about the corruption that's going on in Israel. And obviously, they don't like to be looked at in that kind of light here in the United States. So.
Yeah.
We have here just down the road from myself here in Ogden, Utah. I don't know what part of the world you call home.
Dallas Fort Worth.
Hey, hats off, Texans. Hey, we've got the national, the biggest spy network, the NIA. Okay. We have this data collection center, okay, that I was doing all I could do as a grassroots protester to try and wake people up, because we were there just observing, right? We were talking. This was before they actually went online. We had all these AI techs from the Air Force that were coming in from Nellis in Las Vegas, from Hill Air Force Base. These computer geeks were coming in, and they're so compartmentalized. They're just working on the computer network itself, going in there. Okay, so the NSA's system is so secret that not even the people installing it can tell us what it is. But the neat thing, right down from the facility where all of they have to go grab some lunch, the techs would come down and grab McDonald's hamburgers, quick fast food. So we kind of hung out there, me and my little video crew, trying to get some interviews with some of the people that would dare talk to us. And this one gal came in, and she was from Texas, a little Texas gal. She was as cute as a button, probably in her mid-20s, and had that nice little Texas drawl, you know. And I said, "Ma'am, where are you from?" She says, "I'm from." I said, "Where are you stationed?" She says, I'm from Nellis, but I hail from. She went to school at I think Texas A&M or something. And I says, "What are you?" Wow. He says, "Welcome to Utah." He says, "Well, thank you." You know. And so we started talking, and I said, "What do you do?" He says, "You're so young." She's a lieutenant, right? She had her bar on there. She says, "Well, yeah, I'm in computers, you know." What do you do? And so we started talking. And I said, "Could you answer me a question? I'm just curious. We don't know what's going on in there, but," I said, "Can you tell me what you know about quantum computing going?" And she looks at me and she says, she started opening her mouth, and immediately from behind me came a guy in plain clothes, a civilian, grabbed her, and said, "Quit harassing our personnel or you'll be arrested." And I was just, whoa. Wow. I asked one question. That's the type of people watching. You know, it's spooky. You say 1984 is coming? No. I got to tell you, 1984 is done here, folks.
Yeah.
Now, see, I could have asked her all day long what she likes in music or rock and roll, or if she when she likes Southern Fried Chicken or Reba McEntire, right? Whatever. And nothing would have been said. But the minute I said, "Dude, what do you tell me about quantum computing?" Bam. It's like, and she was taken out of line and hustled right off.
You got away with questions, don't you?
Well, I know how to ask them, because you see, I had set out papers that this magazine called Wired had broken a story that a Canadian firm had done a covert contract with the NSA to bring their next generation of quantum computing, which is far and away above the Cray Super IA or AI computer. Okay, and I sent my computer geeks that I know, and Dominique is our producer of the show. He's a computer man in Silicon Valley there. He can tell you quantum computing is so far beyond the dimensional reality. You got to understand this. Okay, you've got to understand where we're going with this. We have the Cray supercomputer, the AI, that we think that the robots like Sophie and others are being programmed to access the cloud with, right, to become self-aware. But beyond the Cray AI is the quantum realm. Now, imagine this if you can. We have the binary field of the Cray computer, making all these super fast computations between the binary numbers 1 and 2, right, basically. What quantum does goes beyond that, because in the quantum field there is infinity of the numbers and the decimal points, okay? So what happens is you access, talking about Morpheus and the red pill, this goes far beyond that, because you go into a living, breathing, inanimate intelligence. Now, we had the guest on my show, my former pastor, Jim Catlin, who worked for Hewlett-Packard as R&D engineer. And Jim is, frankly, just too smart for his own britches. Okay? He left the R&D of Hewlett-Packard because he was specifically working on the quantum computing field. He left because what was happening, there was, all we can best say is supernatural, call it demonic, pranksterism going into the circuitry of the quantum computing technologies. He knew, and he told me with all soberness, that quantum computing opens up basically an underside of the beast that nobody wants to open, a Pandora's box that can't be opened. Now here's...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to I sent all this in and trying to get information from the people installing this system, and the fact that the computers have to be cooled with this massive amount of water going into the NSA facility. And so I sent my contact person in D.C., who is very much connected with the Pentagon, and even the NSA heads back in Alexandria. And I sent him this information. I says, "What do you make of this based on this Wired article, based on what I'm talking about here? Try and help me to alleviate some of my concerns, Dr. L." I says, "Please tell me that I'm off base here." And he, 24 hours after I sent him the information, he personally called me in my residence, and he said, "Oh my God, thank you for this. We had no idea." We, I says, "Who's we?" He says, "The Joint Chiefs and everybody else had no idea this was happening." I says, "How can that be? Is there no oversight with the NSA boys?" He says, "On this area, no. We had no idea they had contracted for quantum computing legs into their system. We absolutely were going to shut this right down." And they immediately called in for high-level hearings on the NSA to account for this. Now, I don't know if that was completely stopped or not, but the Cray level of AI is enough to make you have nightmares anyway, let alone the quantum situation. Okay, I'm done. I've spouted off enough of this one, but this is what's happening when you look at what the NSA capabilities are, why they access Facebook and Twitter. We have a Twittering president now. Folks, if you post 25 things on Facebook and post 30 posts on Twitter to the network that you connect to, this computer will know more about you than your mother does.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's incredible. Wow.
Yes.
And so I was telling Angie, I mean, between all of the social media right now, and not even social media, but Amazon knows what our buying habits are. Facebook knows where we go and who our friends are, right? And Twitter knows what's on our mind all the time. You put all of those things together, and you know exactly everything about that person.
Yep, and we're called wetware to them. I mean, I did you get that, Alex? That little video I did about the expose on wetware, what they're calling.
Oh yes.
I mean, holy mackerel! Yeah. So the the whole thing is, and and people say all the time, I get negative comments. Dr. Rod, you got to quit talking about religion. You got to quit talking about the Bible. I says, hey, listen, if we can't talk about that, we might as well shut the doors, because that's our only hope, folks. Don't you see? You see, that's their wild card. That's the wild card that they know they can control. You see, if this is a demonic entity that we're fighting here, and I firmly believe that's what it is, because the Bible tells us, again, we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and darkness in high places. And that's what we're fighting here. There is a quantum field, call it whatever you want, but it is the prince of the power of the air that this taps into.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that, because isn't that what CERN is working on?
I was just going to ask about CERN and what you know about it.
And CERN, they're testing antimatter.
Well,
okay?
Isn't that interesting? You should bring that up in the discussion context of Camp Williams, Utah. True. What do you think about that?
Well, the folks that are doing CERN, look at who they are. And it goes back to our boys, our scientists in Tel Aviv. The head scientists of CERN are Tel Aviv Israelis, okay? I did when they were building that crazy thing, I did many stories and interviews on this radio show about that. What they're really trying to do is to create a dimensional portal, a portal entry to bring back these entities that want to control the world again. I know that sounds so crazy, but the truth is stranger than fiction ever was, folks. Oh my goodness!
What was that movie that they could go through the portal? Cannot remember the name of that movie now.
Stargate.
Thank you, Stargate.
Stargate.
That's what this is like.
Well, if you look at, again, you go back into something called the Dead Sea Scrolls, and when I was back in Israel, I actually went up into the main cave there that's supposed to be off limits, but because we had archaeological passes, we went up there, and you know what? I found a really cool piece of pottery that was probably part of the Dead Sea Scroll broken clay pots. It was cool. I have it in my collection now, but inside of that there was a scroll, a complete book of Enoch there now. Yeah. So in the Essene community, the book of Enoch told a lot of secrets. Now, what the book of Enoch talks about is the land beyond the firmament, okay? The desert field, the desert wastes. Now, this is where the hosts of the fallen angels were banished by the powerful Michael and the angels. They're banished off of there, and so we have these agents of the demons, which Christ said to the Pharisees. He says, "You are the children. Your father is of the devil. You are the children of the devil, and you will always love the lie." Okay, he wasn't mincing words. He called them serpents and vipers. Okay. Yep. And so we see this is the same group of people that today are trying to undo that interdimensional firewall. That's my take on it. Okay. I
agree. Yes, I agree with you 100%. And it's interesting to watch it unfold. And
it's terrifying to watch it unfold.
It's terrifying, but there's so many people that are oblivious to what's happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
However, with that said, there is, I believe, a great awakening going on right now, and we're finding that out on these on YouTube and the truth channels like us. There's so many of them popping up, and the truth is getting out there, and they're scared to death that the truth is getting out there, and that's why the great suppression is going on right now.
Yes, indeed. It's like a snowball rolling down the hill. When you start understanding that, hey, Bible cosmology, or the book of Genesis and the book of Job and the truths about the earth, right? And that we have a firmament called the Rakia above us, and that the North Pole is the center point of God's throne. It fits so well. I mean, people are starting to say, my goodness, maybe we do have a God. Maybe there is a plan. Maybe I better get right with it. And that's the awakening that's happening, because that's the ultimate truth.
Well, Nimrod found that out, and they started the Temple of Babylon, trying to go knock on his door and ask if they could come in and have his place. That didn't work out so well.
Yeah, go ahead, Angie.
I was going to ask, it sounds a little bit like you're talking about a flat earth. And I was just going to ask if you are with the firmament and North Pole.
I hate to call it a flat earth. I prefer biblical cosmology. Because what I'm saying is, you put all the scriptures together. We talk about the sun is moving in a circuit around the earth. You see the creation story itself. And Angie, let me just put this out to you, okay? Because if you really look at the steps of creation, if you think that the Bible has any credibility at all, you got to take it all, not just select parts. And I had the most interesting discussion with a group of liberal think tank people just Saturday morning. That, you know, we had our friend Jeff that came up and told us the story. Remember last week, guys? He was the one that instigated this whole thing, and Jeff's probably listening tonight. These guys. Oh yeah,
tell us how did the outing go? We never even heard about that.
Jeff and his wife came. Jeff was like, we thought that these guys would get mad and get up and leave and shake their head, that we should be committed to a rubber room and this and that. But you know what? You can see the wheels moving in their brains. These are guys who really don't believe that God exists. They're atheists, and they're more scientism creation. Right? Mm-hmm. And so suddenly I said, listen, here's what the ancient Hebrew texts say. And we see the studies of Ptolemy and Euclidean geometry, which geometry means geo means earth. Geometry means the measurement of that earth. There's a reason why Ptolemy used Euclidean geometry to come out with his original flat earth geocentric model. Now, so I laid this out. I says, why have you never heard of Ptolemy, folks? Why is Ptolemy not taught on an equal footing with Copernicus and the spinning sphere? And their wheels were like, well, I've never heard of Ptolemy. And it's amazing. They really haven't. So I said, well, what about the Bible? The Bible's all fiction. They said, the Bible is outdated. It's mythology. It's tribal lore, right? Well, no, let's look at the Hebrew of Genesis 1. The voice of God, the Spirit of God moved on the face of the waters, and light was created. Now, I said, that's the first act. Now, we didn't say that the waters were created. No, it said that the face of the waters is what the Spirit of God moved on. Mm. Now, the Hebrew word for face is a word that means the components, identifying features of water, which is hydrogen and oxygen. So hydrogen exists in everything. It just is. So hydrogen is the basic building blocks of everything, including carbon chains. Okay? So that has to be built. If you were to take a construction plan, you would have to say, here's our raw materials, here's how we put them together, here's how we create the end result. It's a plan, right? So we see light coming out of hydrogen bonds, and that's exactly what energy is, what light is. It's hydrogen reactions, okay? Then we see water being formed, and the rakia, the firmament, being put in to separate the waters created above the firmament and the waters below. And the next step in Genesis is the waters were gathered together in one place. Now, I got to tell you, folks, there's one thing that I do consider myself an expert on. I have a doctorate, PhD in nutrition, and my study and my dissertation is all about the properties of water. I can tell you one thing. Water is always level. It meets its own level. Flat. It just does. And so I put this out. I'm sitting there. Here are my physics friends in the university levels. Okay, educate me because I'm just a dumb PhD in nutrition, right? But explain to me how it is that water, which we know by even the USGS accounts, and anybody will tell you that the Earth is 66% ocean, water. It's only 1/3 dry land. Explain to me how ocean water that in the deep trenches of the Mariana Trenches is 15,000 feet higher, right, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. How can this deep, deep, deep water be anything but level? Explain it to me. Show me how it can curve and hold on to a gradient arc of a sphere. All I have to do is read the first 2 pages of Ptolemy, and it makes that very clear. Water cannot adhere to a gradient arc. It just doesn't. So, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Jim and I have had conversations like this, definitely. So then are you familiar with Eric Dubé?
I am. I don't agree with him. I think him and another fellow, Mark Sargent, are purposely shilling this thing.
Yeah, they're Masons. Jim and Angie, are you familiar with author Edward Hendry, who wrote the book The Greatest Lie on Earth, Proof Our World is Not a Moving Globe?
No,
I have not.
I'm not. But
okay, this is a guy that we've had on our show several times, and if you haven't read his book, I strongly, I'll send you the link.
Okay.
This guy is a legal bulldog for a profession, and he uses those skills to construct well easy to perform experiments of your own with 100% repeatable results in the field. And I have had the pleasure of bringing him on the show, and now he and True are pretty much best friends at this point. It's been fun to watch.
Oh yeah, we share a lot of things that we have different insights. Because I got to tell you, when I first got his book, Alex sent me the book, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is ridiculously stupid. I mean, it's got to be there's so many other things to concentrate on. Why should I even give this 5 minutes of my time? Okay. As I started to read the pages, and I began to think, wait. You see, here's the problem, at least with me. I never thought about it.
Right. We don't, because we're so indoctrinated.
Yeah, I mean, so gravity, no, right? I mean, because everything about a round ball, everything about this spinning at, whatever, thousands of miles an hour, it all predicates on having this thing that cannot be proven called gravity.
That goes back to Newton. Now, in my days in the university level, I was part of a debate team. I just loved to debate things. And so we were given, the debate. One debate was on proving gravity or not proving gravity. So we had to go back and read Newton's theories, right, and the numbers. I debated that it was bogus because it is because look. It's all about measuring atomic weights, right? The apple fell and hit the poor guy in his head.
Yeah.
Because the apple is denser than the O2 oxygen filled around it. I mean, that's just It's a matter of density.
Right.
That's it. But
see,
Newton had to have the gravity theory put out there to have Copernicus's theory make sense. They're in cahoots, and look at the impetus behind that. It goes back to the Roman Catholic sun god worship of heliocentrism.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry.
Helios is the Greek word meaning the sun god. That's what it means. Mm-hmm. Jupiter, Apollos. Okay, so we have this ancient Babylonian religion called Baal worship. Baal is sun god / Helios / Satan. It is the adversary. So a heliocentric system is putting Helios, the sun god, in the center of everything.
Right.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
That's right.
It does make perfect sense. Yeah.
And sun god and son of God, you see the correlation.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of play on words. So many things that we didn't think about.
And so the moon, you believe, also is its own luminary, correct?
Absolutely, and I didn't think about this either, but after reading Hendry's book and talking to Edward, I got myself a digital infrared thermometer and went out and tested it for myself. Yeah, in fact, the moonlight on a full moon summer night when I tested it, the moonlight was a full 4 or 5 degrees cooler than the shaded portion behind the trees that I measured, and all over under the cars. How can it be warmer under, a car under the shade of a tree than it is in the full moonlight? Moonlight is cooler, and then I followed up into a lot of the physiology of nightshades. I mean, these are plants like tomatoes, eggplants, etc., that produce most of their growth during moonlight hours.
That's crazy.
What? Yeah. What would happen? What do you think would happen if the president of the United States or future president of the United States says we were never to the moon?
Well, you know what'll happen. I think
their YouTube channel shut down.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, and black helicopters and vans and that sort of thing.
Hey, we talk. When Obama cut NASA's budget drastically, okay, what happened then was billions of dollars somehow got funded into Science X, right? Into the pockets of Elon Musk, and then we have this privatized hoax going on. All right, here's what what's amazing to me. Just not a month ago, if you Google up President Trump and flat Earth, there's a video that just came up, was just posted quite recently, that Trump is a soundbite saying he's saying the Earth is flat.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure I would buy that. I've been hearing that thrown around in the community for well over a year, and it was at first very quickly outed as a disinfo tactic to try and discredit the movement.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm skeptical.
You could be very right, but why is he under such attack now more than ever? I don't know. There's things. Sure, the NASA is so fraudulent, and the billions and billions of dollars thrown at it. All these pictures of the planets that are there are just nothing but CGI. No doubt about it. Yeah. I have a pretty good telescope here in my home. And my great uncle Wallace put millions of dollars from his estate to build what's called the Ott Planetarium here at the campus of Weber State University. So we have a pretty doggone good, powerful telescope there in the planetarium. So we go out there and we've tracked where Mars is and where Venus, the morning star, is, and we hook onto these things and listen. And you know what? It looks like a shining light in a swimming pool. There's nothing at all that we see in these CGI images from NASA.
No,
really?
Wow. Really. I'm just saying this is really kind of amazing stuff.
Yeah, when I look at Venus, the morning star, when I look at Venus, I say to myself, that looks like a star to me. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I've said that for a long time, but I never had any good telescopes and stuff to look through. I was just like, why is that different from that other shiny?
My research into this, folks, has led to a topic which is now referred to as sonoluminescence. And true, as you mentioned, the first verse of Genesis, the Spirit of God moved over the face of the waters, and light was created. You sent me a video called "Star in a Jar," and hopefully it's still up. And if you can search and check that out, folks, it's a very clear example of what we're learning about as sonoluminescence, the reasons for the light show in the firmament that we perceive as stars.
Yeah, the physicist that did this, his name is Seth Putterman, just like a putter that you use in golf, putter man. Seth Putterman's Star in the Jar. And also, if you go to, remember Dean Odell when he was on the show?
What a great show that was. He's such a gentleman.
Pastor Dean Odell pastors a little church in Alabama there in Auburn, okay? And he came on board with this after watching a short video by a guy named Scrawny Tabrani. That's his YouTube channel. Scrawny number 2 Brawny. Check it out. You can just go and he starts out in his 30-minute video showing Seth Putterman's Star in the Jar. That's where he starts out with it. I'm thinking, oh, no wonder Dean Odell liked this so much. Yeah, and we got to get Seth Putterman on the show, because what he was doing he was showing that with the sound waves in his enclosed pure water, when it hit a certain frequency, this bubble formed that began to explode multiple times to this. It's a star, folks. It is a star. And he wanted to he's trying to go out and get funding, because what you can do is you can tap into that energy field, and suddenly, it's 2 words happening. It's called cold fusion. Okay, energy being created without nuclear fallout. Goes back to my buddies, Professors Pons and Fleischman here at the University of Utah. They were making cold fusion in the Star in the Jar, and they were shut down and blackballed, and The story behind the story of Pons and Fleischmann, they went to work for Chairman Toya and Toyota, and the R&D of Toyota, they created an absolute vehicle running on water, folks.
Yeah.
A water cold fusion run car. They were all ready to go to the International Auto Expo to show it as a concept car, and they were told they would not be allowed to produce it. Chairman Toyota says, you can't stop us. And they said, yes, we can. And suddenly all of the Toyota cars started having stuck accelerators, and guess what happens? Toyota's market share went in the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I am not surprised by that. I've seen a lot of different people come out with water, water cars and different things running on water, and they always get stopped in their tracks.
Yeah.
You're talking to one of them right now.
Really?
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. We had this going for quite a year. If you come and visit me in Utah, I can show you how it works. Believe me, I had my partner in this was the retired engineer for Caltrans out of Sacramento. We had another fellow in the Midwest called Stanley Meyer. Check Stanley Meyer out. Just Google up Stanley Meyer, Stanley Meyer. And you'll see some videos that his brother has posted these, kept it going posthumously, because you see my friend Stanley was murdered. My friend Vance, the engineer, was also murdered within 2 weeks after Stanley. And the reason why I'm still here is because I'm an idiot. Wow. I wasn't making the stuff. Yeah. I'm just sitting here, knowing what frequencies do. And we're creating hypergas, hydrogen. See, hydrogen will power it. And when you burn it, guess what happens? There is no greenhouse gases. There's no carbon monoxide because it's not burning carbon-based fuels. Yeah. It burns, and the end result is water vapor comes out, and you can drink the stuff.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing.
We're coming to see you in Utah.
Sorry. Yeah, I've never been to Utah before. It's one of the states I've never been to.
That's one area, I don't have the money. My friend Vance, we had the James Arness Trust. You remember James Arness from Gunsmoke?
Yeah.
His whole family were deep, multi-millionaires in the almond industry there in California, and they were going to fund this. It had the whole business plan worked out. I mean, we're going to just build a carburation unit that we can put on every car that will allow it to run on just water from your garden hose, folks.
Wow.
It's incredible. But they would never allow that to happen because we live in a world, it's about control. It's about that 1% wanting to control the rest of the world. And
it is somewhat happening in an underground level. There are plans being shared on a DIY kind of level that allow a retrofit of just about any modern gas engine to what's known as a Brown's gas modification using electrolysis. And it essentially, it's about $1,000 or so in cost, and it essentially requires moving over to aluminum heads to avoid the corrosion.
Yeah. See, the problem with all that, George Wiseman and I were doing that years ago, Alex, and what the problem you have is you can't really get away from gasoline. It just expands the gasoline and increases your gas mileage 10 to 15 miles per gallon. What I'm talking about here is a complete reversal of that, and you have to have a frequency happening it to produce what's called hypergas, or a lot of hydrogen on demand. Then you can run your car just fine. Stanley Meyer outfitted his van, his dune buggy, actually ran from Maine to California. It's on the video. Just check it out. And all he did was fill up with gasoline. Now, the modification we would have is
You mean water. You mean water.
Sorry, yeah, water. Duh. And then we had the catalytic converter area be a reservoir where the water would come out and recongeal, so there would be very little over unity loss. The water would go back into the fuel tank, the water tank. There was more than I figured over 2,500 miles per gallon of water.
Wow.
That is so incredible. And they won't let us do it.
So what's it going to take for that to happen mainstream? What do you guys think?
Well, see, this is what Pons and Fleischmann were doing, because it's another rather than creating hydrogen on demand, you can actually cause an energy field to be created inside of water that can be tapped and pump those pistons. That's what they were doing. And so I was watching their work with the chairman Toya in the Toyota field in Japan, and I'm saying there, yeah, they're gonna, because Toyota has the billions of dollars behind them, and yet, you can't. I mean, they were shut down. They were flat out shut down over this, and Toyota was in a big way, a big bunch of trouble because
all of a sudden Priuses started driving by themselves in random ways, and people couldn't control them, and there was that big. Remember that, folks?
Yeah. I actually talked to the one engineer that was called in to testify at the House and Senate panel discussion, where they were showing that, look, no, it's not in the linkage, it's not this, it's not that. And I said to him, well, the only thing it could be, if it's not mechanically linkage linked, it has to be in the black box that the FTC controls. He goes, of course it is.
Wow.
And it's a black box hacking that causes the unapproved acceleration.
Also known as fly-by-wire.
Yeah, and so he knows that, but how do you prove it?
Right. If you don't play the game, if you don't play their game, that's what happens. Just like Chipotle didn't have GMOs in their food, and all of a sudden they started having bacterial problems in their restaurants.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you see, this is where it comes down. When black boxes came out and started to be putting on in the computer modules of all major car brands, and it had to be done, and no matter if you're importing it or not. Boy, I was vocal about this. I said, look, anything that taps into a Mr. Goodwrench computer system or whatever they can scan, because I was trained in this, and when I worked for a while for Chevrolet. I could see that anything that can be scanned by Mr. Goodwrench's computer system can be hacked, and they can tell you exactly how fast all of your driving habits, how fast, your average speed, your rate of acceleration, your rate of braking, all of this is right there on the computer screen. Now, if they can tell you that, then they can bypass that and go into the accelerating system themselves and make it happen, make the car accelerate by itself. It's not rocket science, okay, that they can do that. And I said, and you know what? I wrote letters to GM's board and all this, and they sent me back a very kindly worded letter that says, "You are a conspiracy theorist that need to get a life."
No, I mean, but what you're saying makes perfect sense, and somebody could have an untimely accident.
Oh my! You're so lucky you didn't have an untimely accident.
No, I mean, it does make perfect sense, though, right? It really does.
Yeah.
And I like your way of thinking. I've got my tinfoil hat on too.
I know there is no such thing as tin foil, guys. There's only aluminum foil, and aluminum foil doesn't even work. And there's another story behind that, by the way. Do you know that if you take actual tin foil and layer it with mylar, stuff they make those balloons out of, right?
Right.
If you layer tin, mylar, so you have about a 1/4 inch layer, and if you open it up and put it on an aperture like a camera aperture, you have an over unity field there too, guys.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we strapped this onto a dune buggy. Or I'm sorry, a gold card, and we got speeds up to 75 miles around an oval track with absolutely no propulsion at all, but that little thing in the back seat. And we were, again, this was on the heels of my water work, right? I had people that were going to raise a little bit of money to go do maybe a stock offering and get this out there, because it's just a matter of modifying it to a full-scale chassis. We need a little bit of seed money to do all this. I'm telling you that on our third public show and tell dog and pony show, a nice little black Suburban pulls up with shaded windows. And men in black came. I mean, these are MIBs, folks.
Oh yeah, they're a real thing for sure.
They came up and confiscated our unit and said, "This is your one and only warning, you will not be asked again. This will not happen. So, you cannot get tin foil anymore unless you go offshore and down in Brazil or someplace. They've replaced tin foil with aluminum foil.
Mm-hmm.
Just FYI.
And aluminum foil, as you said, doesn't work.
Yeah, tin is amazing, but
tin is amazing. They don't have it anymore, but it's amazing. If you can get some tin, man, you're in good shape.
Alcoa can't wait. Aluminum foil, you're foiled again.
Talk about precious metals.
Yeah, right.
In my mineral business, I was trained by the late Dr. Linus Pauling. He died in '93. He trained me in the early 90s, before he passed on, as to how to make the mineral supplements correct and how they work sublingually. One of the key things that he had, and we made originally, was tin as an element, a mineral element. Okay, we started marketing Mother Earth minerals in the mid 90s, and our tin was the first thing that the FDA came in and said, you cannot market this. We're going to shut you down otherwise. We cannot do tin as a supplement anymore. Because why? You know why it works? You know what tin does?
What?
Tin is a superconducting element that eliminates fluoride toxicity in the frontal amygdala brains. Okay? Tin gets your IQ up about 50 points.
And you can still make the tin?
No, I cannot. I can't even get. We had to turn in all of our tin alloys that we made the substance with. We showed if we did not, and if we ever marketed tin, the FDA would shut us down. We were given a cease and desist order. And following up with that, right behind that was our mineral lithium. We had tin and lithium that we can no longer do. Lithium is the same thing. Lithium in microscopic amounts will absolutely balance the brain and take you out of areas of bipolar situations, of depression. I mean, there's no reason for depression if you have lithium.
You're balanced, yeah.
Get lithium balance.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're out of time. It's been fun. We didn't even talk about the good stuff.
We'll have to have you folks back sometime.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
That'd be great.
Keep in touch. Keep your powder dry, Jim and Angie. You keep doing what you're doing. You got our support all the way. Thanks again, Major, and our folks at the Goldwater. Thanks for the simulcasting. The truth is what it is. This is the true, and it is my name. I am true. I'll always be true to you guys, always. Okay. Good night, folks. Be safe. Be well.